Hello, miracle makers. And there's a reason why thousands of people wear our bracelets every day. What would love do now? And why? This world is much more difficult when we ask, what would hate do now? What would attack do now? What would blame do now? Remember this with me. There is no veil that the love of God and us together cannot lift. We are not here to perpetuate the darkness. Our purpose is to extend the love and the light of God to a world that is in need of it now. The world doesn't need your fear. It needs your love. And the primary question you have to ask every day is, what would love do now? And yesterday I asked myself this question, what would love do now? And the answer came quickly. Call your senator. And I called and wrote Senator Rubio yesterday. And I invite you to call your senator or congressperson today. And keep in mind, we do not traffic in attack of any kind. The Academy of Spiritual Awakening does not in any way support divisive rhetoric. We responded to Senator Rubio yesterday with respect and courtesy, and we ask you to respond to them from a posture of love, not attack. So, let's take a deep breath together, okay? Okay, let's do it again. Okay, good. Now, a couple of things before we review the 50 Miracles Principles. First, happy birthday to Yule Turnquist. I hope that you have experienced a wonderful day, and you are my holy brother. And we are excited as well to welcome Yule as a member of our board of directors of the Academy of Spiritual Awakening. Thank you so much for accepting this position with us, and we are changing the world together. And for those of you who need counseling through this difficult time, I'm here for you. I'm your ministerial support. Below in the comments is my email and phone number. Call me and we can arrange a time and arrangement to set you on the right path. So, let's delve into the 50 principles of A Course in Miracles together. Everyone okay? Say yes if you are.
Yes.
Okay, good.
Are you okay with me using the old logo?
Oh, no, not at all. In fact, you can go through the 50 principles with us, and you're going to get a fuller explanation through that. We do have this, by the way. We have several. We just got several more. And we just moved the class here to my home. And I want to mention this as well. The reason I moved it here, and Susan will be with us next week, by the way. She had another appointment. But, all of you know I went through a year ago, a little over 1 year ago, to brain surgery. So I have a threshold. So too much activity is not helpful for me. So I really went into prayer, and it said, look, do this at your home. This will be less activity for you, and everything will help you and benefit you. So I'm here. Are you guys okay with this?
Yes.
Everybody here. Okay, good. Okay, now, does everybody, where we are? We are on Miracle Principle 22. Okay? And, before I begin this, by the way, look, I was in prayer. I knew that you had a birthday today, and I prayed about this. I said, what would love do now? See how this works? What would love do now? I did two things, actually. The first thing, I watched a video, Roberta, and because I saw a guy, Earl Purdy, talking about the way of mastery. And I thought, why haven't I ever seen this book? I've been doing this for 30 years. I should know this. So I always go to Jesus specifically and say, hey, can you get this book for me. I don't even know what it is, you know. And guess what? Roberta brought this book to me today. So I am so grateful for this. And this is what happens when you give what you think is lost when in fact it is not lost at all. What you give to others, you are giving to yourself. So thank you so much, Roberta. And today I did this with a beautiful picture that I have loved for years, okay? It is right here, and it says, "One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." Okay? So, this is my gift for you, okay?
Kevin.
All right. Good. Wow. See? All is well, folks. Now, so, let me take a drink of my tea here. Yule.
Yes.
Somebody give me that pen right there. That would be helpful for me. Thank you, Pam. And let's start with Yule, and we'll go around. And if you don't want to read it all, just say pass, and we'll go to the next person, okay? Okay.
Starting with 22, correct?
Yes.
Lesson 22.
Principle 22.
Miracles are natural expressions of total forgiveness. Through miracles, you affirm your acceptance of God's forgiveness by extending it to others.
Yeah, go ahead.
The second step is inherent in the first, because light cannot tolerate darkness. Light, by definition, dispels darkness automatically. Miracles are associated with fear only because of the fallacy that darkness can hide. People believe that what they cannot see does not exist, and their physical eyes cannot see in the dark. This is a very primitive solution and has led to a denial of the spiritual eye, which always depends on light. However, remember the biblical statement, "The eyes of the Lord are in every place, beholding the evil and the good." There are two stages, one lower and one higher, which are involved in the escape from darkness. The first is the recognition that darkness cannot hide. This usually does entail fear. The second is that there is nothing you want to hide, even if you could. This brings escape from fear. As soon as you have completely entered the second phase, you will be not only willing to enter into communion, but will also understand peace and joy. Your commitment is not yet total. That is why you still have more to learn than to teach. When your equilibrium stabilizes, you can teach as much as you learn. This will give you the proper sense of balance. Meanwhile, remember that no effort is wasted. Unless you remember this, you cannot avail yourself of my efforts, which are limitless.
And one more paragraph on the next page. That's all of this, by the way, in Principle 22.
Right.
So just FYI.
Okay. The biblical teaching that if you are ashamed of me before men, I will be ashamed of you before God is interpreted as a threat only as long as you remain at the first stage. What it really means is that if you are ashamed of me or embarrassed by love, you will project and therefore make it impossible for me to reach you. Make every effort you can not to do this. I will help you as much as you will let me.
Okay. That's huge. First of all, I know, Rhonda, you already have a question, right?
No, I had to listen because I have the old book.
Okay. That's okay. And I want to reiterate that it's okay regardless of whatever version you use. Look, I'm very closely aligned to those books, The Foundation of Inner Peace, as well as the Course in Miracles Society, which I was part of and a voting member of. And that organization created the original edition that brought about 25% more back to the text. And this version, boy, there's a huge story behind this. But let me just say this quickly, since it's germane to what we're talking about here. Look, I love Ken Wapnick. Everyone knows Ken, right? And I was in the trial against him in New York. And we did prevail. And that in that trial, we made it in the public domain, okay? Just as we would the Bible or anything else like that, or the Urantia. So when that occurred, from the Course in Miracles Society, that version came out. And then the team at the Circle of Atonement with Robert Perry discovered, and you can really understand this in the introduction of this book, of how this really occurred. And I knew some of it in the Jesus Course in Miracles book that the Course in Miracles Society produced. But I did not really understand the full impact of it. It is more personal. It is more specific. And it's more of an instruction about what we need to do when we scratch our heads going, what the hell is this all about? It's there, okay? And I think that, and I love Ken Wapnick, but he overly edited this book, okay? And it's all here. Look, let me just be very honest with you guys. About 20 years ago, because we banned, A Course in Miracles was banned at Unity Village, all of it, in every church. So I was with Chris, and he went to the board of directors there, and I wasn't even part of it yet, but I was just met Chris, and he discovered A Course in Miracles with me, so he went to his board and said, look, we need to lift this ban. And they did it within 1 minute. And now it's in most of Unity churches in the world. Okay. So then Chris and I went throughout the country, did a workshop and services on Sunday mornings all over, calling Unity, You, and A Course in Miracles. So we did this. And the moment I did this, Ken Wapnick calls me and his wife, Gloria. And he says, you can't do this. And I said, yeah, I can. And I'm doing it right now. Well, you can't use the Bible against A Course in Miracles. I said, look, the principles within Unity is in alignment with A Course in Miracles. And at that time, when I read that version, I thought, oh, well, it is light in here, the Bible references and so forth. Now, it's way bigger, and it really talks about the Bible more exhaustively. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So I was like, oh, I was right about this, that you cannot divorce the Bible from A Course in Miracles. So I love Ken Wapnick. I love Gloria as well. I'm sure they'll be calling me probably tomorrow morning. I don't care. I love them with all my heart. I think that they made a mistake, just as Unity did when it banned A Course in Miracles, you know. For instance, let me give you an example. We talked about the last 2 weeks about the instruction of sex. Jesus said this to Helen. It is important that every student that does A Course in Miracles understands fully about sex and the body. What happened? They removed it from the course because Helen herself was very uncomfortable mentioning this in the book. So she removed it too. So a lot of fear has occurred, right? In the process of A Course in Miracles. So now you guys know, right? Hello, any questions about that? You all look like, what? Did this really happen in the last 20 years?
This is the unabashed, unedited.
This is the complete and annotated edition. And look, Robert Perry, you know, really the founder of the Circle of Atonement, told me, look, there are so many areas in this book that, you know, is very surprising. Okay? And I said, yeah, I know. I'm seeing it every day. So I just want you to know the history behind this, okay? I am very familiar with this book and every single word in it. And I have read this whole book probably twice. You can just look at my books here. They're just filled with notes and everything. So, okay. So does anybody have any questions about that?
No.
Okay. So let me just respond to this principle here. First of all, in Principle 22, it's talking about miracles and forgiveness. Okay. Those two things are one and the same. When you forgive fully and extremely, you're going to experience the miracles that come forth because of it. Okay. The Course does not ask that we forgive of a person for something that they did. We have to forgive our brothers and sisters for what they did not do. Okay, Allison, you look like you have a question about this.
No question, it's just resonating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Needed to hear that.
So, before I opine about this one, does anybody want to think what we think about this? Yeah.
Well, are you talking about like the expectations maybe that we place on people, and
That's one of it,
forgiving
yes.
them for not meeting we're forgiving ourselves for having those ego needs maybe.
Right.
Yes. And I can say it in another way as well. That what we are responding to that person is not a direct communication with that person. That what we are responding to is our interpretation of that person. And that interpretation is solely from an egoic mind that is based upon time and space and immediately removes itself from the eternal timeless now. That is where the interpretation becomes. You know, this is why I tell people, my fellow A Course in Miracles teachers here in Palm Beach County, when we get together every 6 weeks together and talk about this. You know, it's really important that we understand the whole holistic approach that we take with people. Does anybody know what holistic theory is? Rhonda, do you know? Okay. Holistic theory, for instance, is when the sum of the parts, that the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. Okay? So another way, you have to really look at, and I do this in our counselings as well, you have to look at those relationships holistically. Because nothing occurs right here, right, without having an effect upon the whole thing. Okay? You all know when a butterfly flaps its wing, it has an effect in the whole world. The same is true when we say or think about a thought that is based upon fear, for instance. Does everyone get that? This is why it's so important that we understand that the moment that we press against the quantum field, guess what happens? It comes back to the proportion that we push against it. This is why we practice non-resistance completely. Because the moment that I attack anyone in this dream state, I am attacking myself. The moment that I think a thought of blame about anything, I am blaming myself. When I have a notion of competition toward a brother or a sister, guess what? I am in competition with my own mind. Do you all get this? Boy, you look quiet
No, it's-
today. What's going
Why
on
is
here?
it- Do you mean because you're in competition, your ego is in competition with your higher self?
No, your ego is in competition with itself. Okay? So, for instance, if I project to another person that competition within my mind, I have to look at myself and say, hey, am I projecting here? Okay? Am I looking in my own mind and saying, is there something within my psyche that I am competing against? And Rhonda, we talked about this last week personally, right? Where we were going through the lessons together, and people call me all the time to get an explanation, and I enjoy doing that. I really do. But you said to me, hey, what do you mean that you are in competition against God's will? It's because we have ourselves created our own personal will. You see this? In contradiction with God's will. So yeah, you're going to experience that competition against God's will because you have miscreated your own will against God's. Yeah.
So my question is, I thought we were given free will as well. So how would you describe free will?
Okay. Well, first of all, the only free choice that we have within time and space is a choice between reality and illusions. So when you choose illusions, you can give yourself a label of being free when in fact you are not free at all. When you live and move and abide in the eternal timeless now, at that moment, then you are free.
I get it.
Look, I have said this. Look, my spouse and I have gone through really releasing the last addiction that we both have. You know, it's not a big deal, so don't opine about what that is. It's not a big thing. But we let it go, and I said to him, I said, look, as we go through this together, I said, remember with me this. From A Course in Miracles, the Son of God is in chains as long as he believes he is in chains. And when he sees himself as free, he is free. You know, this morning I talked to, Reverend Chris Jackson in Miami calls me every morning, or I call him, whatever. We probably call twice a day. And, he said to me this morning, he said, Kevin, you're really experiencing all of the chains that you have removed from your life, all of your life. And now you're letting go of one more thing. What is your experience with that? And I said, Chris, I need to tell you this morning because it just happened to me this morning. I said, I was walking around here in the complex, and I said, I was doing the lesson with the students today, and I said, I felt a sense of kind of being out of my body in a state of complete peace and joy. And I said, the moment I thought of this, I said, wait a minute, is this because I just let go of one of the last chains in my world? Is that what I am experiencing right now? A beauty, a joy, a bliss, a heavenly whisper, a breath around me? Is this what I'm experiencing? And he said, yeah, probably. He goes, we all are experiencing that. It is the difference between being asleep in time and space, under the guise and the guide of the voice of fear, or rather, being awake. Because you have to know, and I have to know as well, who we are. Who we are. Allison, you are the Christ, the daughter of the living God. And I will respond to you accordingly, because that is a fact. Look, this is what I put over yesterday on my closet here, because I had to do it as a reminder. And it says, Jesus, help me see my brother as he really is, and thus release both him and me. So I'm not here to evaluate you. Okay, I'm not using time and space as a measure against you, but rather I'm moving beyond the appearances of time and space to touch within you the mind of the Christ within you. That's it. You got that? You got that, Rhonda and Yul and Robert? And
yeah. Consciousness.
It's not consciousness because consciousness implies levels of awareness. You're either awake or asleep, you know? So I have some hesitation with respect to consciousness because it does imply levels of it. There is kind of a level of way of really waking up gently. That's what A Course in Miracles says. Look, as you go through the lessons with us here, this is what and you're going to go through it tomorrow, right? And the way that they do this is so beautiful. It's saying, if you have any strain at all, stop doing the lesson right now. Because we are not here to enforce fear within you, but we are here to instead enforcing the love of God. So I'm not trying to compel people to agree with me. I don't care whether they agree or not. I'm not here to force Yul to wake the hell up. Because to whatever extent I can say to Yul, wake the hell up, I am essentially saying to myself, Kevin, wake the hell up yourself. Because again, I'm playing small if I use time and space to measure my brother and sisters. Does that make sense? Yeah, Rhonda.
Yeah, no, I meant the Christ consciousness, the the universal.
The Christ
that's
mind.
What I meant.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I just want to be very clear about that. Any questions about that? Sure? You guys are okay? All of you? Okay.
It's a great reminder because, bring it back to me, right? If I'm thinking something about, you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
My brother. It's like, damn.
Yeah. And
It is a good
Esteban,
reminder, you're right, to look at ourselves.
yeah, Esteban said to me the other day, we text every morning our lesson. We've done it for 5 years. And the moment that he or I go south in the egoic mind, he will say to me or I will say to him, peace to such foolishness. Right? That is from a lesson in A Course in Miracles. And that statement alone is what I used every day after the surgeries to say, oh, Kevin, you're going to die. Kevin, you look awful. Blah, 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 blah. Peace to such foolishness. Because I don't want to prescribe myself to time and space. That is a yardstick of death. Okay. Roberta, you doing okay?
Oh, yeah.
Did I mention thank you so much for that book again? And I will start, I swear, when you guys all leave, I'm going to open that book and read the whole thing probably all night here. So thank you for keeping me up all night. So, all right. Okay, so let's go to the next one here. Oh, by the way, I want to mention one other thing about this principle here. So, first of all, miracles and forgiveness is the same. You all get this, okay. Secondly, where it says in the paragraph 3 under 22, it says, right here, it's saying this is a very primitive solution and has led to a denial of the spiritual I. So this is what A Course in Miracles later on calls the Christ's sight, the eyes of the Christ. Okay, this is what when I say you cannot see through the eyes of the Christ, but Christ can see it, or let me say it properly here. Christ cannot see through your eyes, but you can see it through the eyes of the Christ. You got that? Okay. So when you disregard what your physical eyes are telling you, okay, and you do this by suspending judgment about anything in this world. Look, you just do it. And if you can't do it, look, I got my journal right up there. And right before you all came here, I said, Jesus, I don't know how this is going to work tonight. This is a change that I had to do, So I step back here, and I allow the light within me to step forward here. I acknowledge your presence. I acknowledge your love and your support. I don't want to be bound by time and space or people, whether they come or don't come or whatever. Help me to see my world differently. I know that there is a better way. My folks, when you do this and surrender 100% to what you think should be, right? And instead accept all things as they are right now, boom, that's where the miracle occurs. Okay? Okay, so it's talking here then about the spiritual eye. So when you suspend judgment entirely, then vision begins to emerge. And you will see probably in lesson 17, as you go through this, and it will tell you that this might occur to you, okay? And that was the time it occurred to me. It was like, oh my God, this is the evidence, because at the beginning of the lessons, it says, when you do the lessons, whether you believe it or not, I will show you that the evidence that this is true. And it occurred. Just boom. That's why I've done it now for 30 years, because I saw the evidence of it. So that is what you're experiencing when I say the spiritual eye, the third eye. Okay, right here. Got it? Okay. Secondly, Robert Perry gives two descriptions here, and I'm going to ask you to read that, if that's okay. 21 and 22 here. Are we in this one? Okay. So 21 and 22, the footnotes there. So.
Okay, 21.
Yeah.
This is the first reference to the spiritual eye, which is defined later as true vision, and is eventually called the eyes of Christ. It is a spiritual faculty in us that is able to directly see the holiness in ourselves and others. However, it also sees our inner darkness and defilement of the altar. 22. The final sentence is a reference to Proverbs 15:3, King James Version. We think this somewhat opaque paragraph means this: we mistakenly think we can successfully hide our darkness. The best way to hide it, we believe, is to make sure it is never seen, since at that point it will seem as if it doesn't even exist. So how can we make sure our darkness remains unseen? Well, our physical eyes don't work when the lights are out. So perhaps the spiritual eye, which is what sees our inner darkness, works the same way. Perhaps it too can't see when the lights are out. Since the miracle is what brings the light, we just need to keep the miracle away from us. If we keep its light away, we assume the spiritual eye will not have the light by which to see, and thus will never see our inner darkness. That darkness will then remain undisturbed and intact. Yet this attempt is ultimately futile, because, as the final sentence says, the spiritual eye is in every place, beholding the evil and the good.
Okay.
Our darkness cannot hide.
Right. Now, when it mentions good and evil, look, it's really easy for you and I to say, oh, yes, I've got a goodness in me. There it is, right? But there's no evil in me. Bull crap. That's bull crap. Look, this is why we repress in the subconscious the darkness, so we don't have to look at it. So when we are able to look at our own stuff fully, okay, and acknowledge my participation in what we have created, then you begin a journey of awakening, where you don't have to blame anybody for anything ever, forever, because you take it 100% responsibility for what is happening here. You say, Kevin, I don't like what our president is doing right now, in that moment, I have to look at myself and say, is there something in my mind that a thought of attack, a thought of judgment, which is murder in A Course in Miracles, that is the reference. Is it something in my mind that feels lonely and sad and depressed and wants to rail against the world? Yeah, I accept that 100%. I originated that in my own mind. So I can't blame the world for what I'm experiencing at all. I am responsible for what I see. I choose and I decide upon every goal and everything that I experience because my thoughts are the most powerful effect within my world. Everyone thinks, oh, it doesn't have an effect through my behavior. If I'm doing something bad, then that has an effect. But if my thoughts are up in my mind, that's not going to have an effect. That's baloney. Every single thought that we entertain or give attention to manifests on some level in our experience. You, yesterday, texted me, and I didn't even respond immediately because I was just thinking about it. You bumped another car, right? Can I say this? Okay. And it's helpful to sit up a little bit more and get some oxygen to my brain. So she mentioned me yesterday. I bumped a guy, and then she says, what did I do to produce this in my experience? So I did not really respond yet because I knew that she would probably be here and I would have to respond twice to her. So just do it right now. Because I remembered within my own experience too, when I bumped my head and had 2 brain surgeries as a result of it. I had to ask that same question. Did I do something here that produces this? So I know from the perspective of A Course in Miracles, it says it comes from one of 3 levels. One is an ancient agreement that you have made with another person. And you're going to see it replay over and over in your lifetimes until you and I have given to it extreme forgiveness. When you have given it extreme forgiveness, then that will disappear. The second thing is what the Holy Spirit has done to give us an assistance in time and space. So the Holy Spirit then can shift time and space to present to you a situation or a circumstance that will benefit you. And this is why I told the people at Unity on the Bay in Miami, I said, what was given to me a year ago with the bump of my head was a gift, a complete 100% gift. And I really believe that was the Holy Spirit. And then, of course, the third thing is when we make an error and we miscreate within time and space, then yeah, it could be that too. I probably had a few mistakes too, personally. So one of those 3 levels then produce something within the 3D Technicolor that we're looking at is a result of something that has occurred in the ancient mind or from the Holy Spirit or from my own miscreations in this world. Does that make sense? Rhonda? Yeah.
I remember, I think Reverend Chris did I remember hearing one of the services saying, just be grateful for every single thing. It's a gift.
Look, actually...
How I saw it? I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
I eventually saw it because I texted Kevin again that to me, when things like that happen, of course, at first I questioned, because I'm doing the course, what did I do to bring this on? Well, I went out, I was feeling stressed with the vibrations of the world right now, and I wasn't fully focused. I took responsibility, and then I realized there was a gift in this. I should have gotten a ticket written up for driving too close. You know you're always in the wrong when you bump somebody from the rear, no matter what. Guy stopped short, he started to go, he stopped, whatever. I had to take the responsibility, and I did. Then I realized my gift, first of all, of course, nobody was hurt. That was the first thing. It was not major. Secondly, I didn't get a ticket. And it was my wake-up call with the gift of not getting a ticket to slow down and focus. And that's what I took as my gift.
Yeah.
But somehow I didn't get a ticket. Normally you would have.
So the question then is, how do I respond to that?
I didn't get it.
You can see it then, okay, what it really is. It's a call to love. This person is having a call to love, or this person is having a call to health. And so when I shift my perception, and this is the miracle, when I shift in my perception from a fearful way of looking at the world to a loving way, that is where the miracle occurs. How does that manifest itself behaviorally? It manifests itself by expressing behaviorally, as well as verbally, the love of God. This is why I have said repeatedly that we have to be respectful and courtesy, as well as gracious, okay, and kindly, and loving, and healing as well. All of those things is a result, the behavioral evidence of our internal conviction and belief and confidence that God's love is here, and that there is no veil that the love of God and us together cannot lift. Yes.
I have to make this
Say
point
as
because
much
it
as you
just
want.
made me realize
Yeah.
it too. Everybody involved in the accident, myself, the fellow whose car I hit, and even the police officer, we were all so nice to each other that, you know, I mean, we actually, there was respect, there was love, and the first thing the guy that I hit said to me when we both got out of the car, and I said, I'm sorry, because I knew I was in the wrong hitting him from behind. It could have been worse. I said, you're absolutely right, it could have been worse. Long story short, by the end of this little incident, the police officer thanked us for being so nice that I didn't take off and disappear, because 9 out of 10 times the person that hit someone does. That we were wonderful people to deal with. Maybe that's why I didn't get a ticket too. The love was there. The fella I hit said to me in front of the officer, well, Rhonda, it was really nice meeting you, and I'm sorry we had to meet under these circumstances. We all shook hands and smiled and wished each other a safe journey.
Yeah.
That's how it ended.
Yeah.
Cool.
Thanks, I had to share that.
Yeah, I want to say one more thing too. Look, here at the Academy, I'm not militant with really explaining A Course in Miracles. Boom, 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 boom. We got to go through this quickly. No, we don't. Okay, I really want that discussion. I want to have a full, exhaustive explanation of what is really happening. Okay, so that is really important to me. And by the way, the interaction that we have is so important. Okay, so you guys have something in your minds?
We're agreeing. We're really
Okay.
grateful. I mean, I think I'm reading your mind.
Okay, I'm reading your mind. Okay, I think, okay. All right.
It's comfortable. It really is.
So, and these footnotes from Robert Perry is a scholar of A Course in Miracles, unparalleled in my experience. He talks about here in footnote 21, and I think you read this. It is a spiritual faculty.
Fallacy.
No, faculty in us that is able to directly see the holiness in ourselves and others. However, it also sees our inner darkness, the defilement, there it is, of the altar. Now this is what it's talking about, those two levels. Okay? The one is we're trying to get rid of the darkness, and the second level is that there is nothing that can be removed from the darkness because we placed it there. Okay, so this is, I really want you guys to get this, because I have thought about this almost every day when I'm at Starbucks and Palm Beach. I'm there every morning. If you all want to have coffee there with me, just come to Palm Beach. 10:30 or 9:30 to about 10 or 11. I'm there. Is the defilement of the altar. So we want to acknowledge the holiness, okay? And I really want to be clear about this. We have to acknowledge that the altar that has been given to us right now, the love, the light, the joy, the goodness, the kindness, the peace, and everything that has been given to us in the altar that is sacred, we have defiled it by what? By choosing the voice of fear. The moment that I accepted the hallucination that you're separate from me, that I'm separate from you, and because of that notion, fear then arises to fill up the vacuum. That is where we defiled the altar, by listening to a voice that is full of fallacy. So you can say, I've been really searching for a word that really represents that defiled altar. And in my mind, it is a belief that I have a notion that I am broken. And not only am I broken, but that you are broken too. And so all of my life then is spent, and you probably have too, spent a lot of days doing this, believing on the one level that you're broken and that you have to be fixed. There's another way of looking at this. That the world is full of sin and should be forgiven. Again, you have created a defiled altar by saying the world is full of sin. Oh, it's my responsibility to forgive them. Baloney, that's not it at all. Do you all get this? So we can't, you see, we have to look at my own mind and your own minds and your psyches and saying, okay, Kevin, do you really believe that you are broken right now? That you're full of sin? That you're mortal? That you're trapped within inside of a body with only listening to the voice of fear, pounding your head with it every day? Is this what you have accepted? Is this the path that you have chosen? And then you don't like to hear that. You don't want to tell yourself that. So what do then? You then project it upon everybody else. I'm not the bad person here. Rhonda is, or Allison is, or Pam, or Robert, or all of these people are wrong, but I'm okay. You see this? Mm-hmm. Yeah, Roberta.
Isn't the only problem separation? I mean,
yes.
Our true self, we are that love and that light. Right. And it's when we choose to separate and project that out or see ourselves in that way that defilement comes in. But on the true level, we are that love and light. And we don't.
In reality, that is true.
Yeah.
However,
but we have let that in. The darkness. Well, we've opened ourselves up to the fear and the separation from our source, from each other.
Yes, you're exactly right. So, like this, we just read there as well. Look, there's a part of me that is full of light and joy and bliss and everything. That is true. However, there's a part of me that has miscreated. So, Roberta, this is the way to look at it. So so you've got two dynamics here. One miscreates under the voice of the fear of the ego. Then you create. Okay? So, and I think I mentioned this to Rhonda yesterday when we talked, or Amber, or somebody called me. And I said, okay, look, man, this is what we're looking at here. You're either being here now, and when you are, you create truly. You extend the light and the love of God. How do we miscreate? We go into the past and into the future, and we don't extend anymore. We then project. Okay? So to whatever extent that we can tether ourselves to the eternal timeless now, the holy instant, A Course in Miracles refers that to, then we can truly and experience joy when we are here and now. When we slip into the past or the future, then we project upon the world all of our ills that we experience personally. You see that? So again, you're either extending now in the present moment, or you are projecting a notion and a belief in the separation. You see that? See that? I want to restate this as well. Right now, all of us are exchanging molecules with each other. Okay? We are one. And look, I've got my spouse is a scientist. He's a meteorologist, almost his PhD in this. So that's probably why he's in the bedroom and not here with us. Because, you know, he at the very base of it, and we have talked about this, that the separation is true and can be measured. And what I'm saying is, there is no separation. You can measure all you want to in the dream, sure. Does that mean that it's real? No, it is not real at all. I'm sure that he's probably crying right now in the bedroom. I don't care. I love you, Aaron, so much. You are the Christ, the Son of the living God, and so am I, so you should remember that too.
I just felt his eyes roll.
So I mentioned this a couple of weeks ago too. You know, I think the word matter here, I think the root word of that is measure. So, or vice versa, one of those two. It's connected. It has a parentage. So, when I believe in matter in the dream state, well, how do I know that I am trafficking in the matrix? How do I know this? By how much I am measuring what I am seeing. You see, every relationship is like this. This is why they go south quickly. Is because you're experiencing the love of God, right? Boom, 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 and it's a wonderful and divine experience that we're all going to experience it. And then that voice of the ego pops up and says, okay, now you need to contain this, own it, and possess it. And you can't own it and possess it unless you measure it. Okay?
Is that the same as judging?
It is.
Judgmental?
Yes, absolutely. The same thing. So that is why matter is here, is because you have measured it. When you stop measuring it, then that's where you begin to exercise the spiritual eye, and you let go of what the physical eyes are telling you right now. Okay? Look, it's easy to want to measure people using the yardstick of time and space. I have to look at this every day. Look, my sisters and brothers in Kansas City, they say they never watch it, but I'm sure that they are watching this right now. And, you know, they are all fundamentalist Christians, and they're sincerely believers, and that's fine. I have no problem with this whatsoever. I believe that I was the one that converted all of them to Christian fundamentalists when I was like 15 years old.
And then you strayed.
And I was the black sheep that said, oh, my God, you know. And I want to say to my sisters, and I've got 4 sisters, 5 sisters, 1 brother, 2 half-sisters, and 2 half-brothers. And 30 nephews, and a lot of great nieces and nephews. All of them. Now, I know in my mind that they have accepted a belief in the separation, and they sin in this world. And that the emphasis on their perspective is that the basis of our belief comes from the crucifixion. Okay? I believe that the foundation is the resurrection. And there's a huge difference between those two premises, right? So I'll just use that for right now. So when I'm there, I want to say, hey, you are so... What world are you living in here? What am I doing? I am measuring Donna, right? When my mother passed away 3 years ago, I took these What Would Love Do Now bracelets, and I gave them to all of my nephews and nieces there at the funeral. And I said, use this, you know. And then my sister removed all of those bracelets from my nephews and nieces. Now, in that moment, what was the inclination right there? Is to me to attack my sister, to measure what has occurred, and so forth. What did I do instead? Oh, wait. What would love do now in this moment? Let it go. And make sure you get on that plane back to West Palm Beach or Miami at that time, and make sure that everyone has a bracelet, a reminder, you know. Did I attack my sister? And I'm not attacking her right now, by the way. She doesn't even watch internet at all. But the point is, my response was coming from a place of love, of unity. And how I respond to my sisters and brothers is so important to me, you know. Do they agree with me? Absolutely not. They probably think I'm going to hell in a handbasket. And that's fine. That's fine. Does anybody have any questions about that? I want to understand that you know. I don't even want to go to the next principle. And by the way, we started about 10 minutes later. Can we go 10 minutes more? Is that cool?
Yeah.
So we're going to be leaving here at 8:40 instead of 8:30. Is that okay with everyone?
Yeah.
Give me a yes if that's okay.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, good. Roberta. And then Pam, you have a question too? Okay, go ahead.
I wanted to share something with you. When you said your sisters and brothers thought you're going to hell, you helped me out years ago at Unity. I left the Lutheran Church after 50-some years in the Lutheran Church, very active, Lutheran schools. I started in the Course in Miracles, and I started going to Unity, and our church put out a little pamphlet that Unity was a cult. So people were telling me, you're going to go to hell. I mean, and they were worried. And I remember you said something about you didn't judge somebody because in their mind, that's what they truly believed. So I had to look at that they really cared about me, and in their mind and in their belief, they really saw me going astray. And that really helped me figure that it wasn't out of malice or anything.
No.
It was out of love and
No.
less than
And fear. And fear.
And judgment.
And fear for me,
Yeah, they would, yeah.
But
Look, and this is why I've said probably in the same breath that I was mentioning that I'm not here saying that we should not judge anybody, but that we are incapable of judging anybody.